everybody. Dr. Christy Taylor here, founder of Work Solutions and Work Global News Magazine. And I'm excited to feature another Changemaker for our Changemaker Interview series. And today we're talking to Mr. Filip Keuppens. He is the Chief Executive Officer of the Pickle Juice Company, which is responsible for Pickle Juice, the only scientifically proven beverage to stop muscle cramps. He has a background in sales, operations, and consumer storytelling, and Filip has helped transform Pickle Juice from a niche remedy into a globally recognized performance product used by elite athletes. He draws on his experience both in the boardroom and the rugby pitch. He brings a unique blend of strategic thinking and real-world grit to building breakthrough brands. And so I am so excited to have a discussion today with Filip. And before we get into today's discussion, Filip, is there anything you want to add to that great introduction about yourself and the company?
No, Dr. Taylor, it's great to be here. I just hope I can live up to that wonderful introduction. I appreciate it.
So Filip is a man after my own heart because Filip, you started your journey in the military, and we were discussing before we jumped on this interview. I also have a background in military service, so I always give kudos to my fellow vets. But you transitioned from military service to a career in sales operations, and you're now leading a performance beverage brand. So first of all, what was that transition like? So you go from the military to promoting this performance beverage brand, and not only, how did you get to this transition, but can you share some lessons from your past experiences that really has shaped your approach to you as leading as the CEO of Pickle Juice?
Yeah, thanks. It's the military actually helped me out a lot. As you know, a lot of people think that the military experience is what they see in movies and getting barked at and all that stuff. But fortunately, I was exposed to a lot of special warfare groups, and it's kind of like a first name basis kind of thing. It's mission centric. It's very much a team sport, and that gave me that sort of coaching leadership mindset where it's not a top down thing. It's a collaborative effort, and focused on hyper accountability, hyper honesty, hyper transparency. And I took that into my professional career, my athletic career. And, fast forward a couple of years, only a few, and here we are.
So tell us a little bit more about Pickle Juice and the passion behind this company.
Sure. So Pickle Juice has nothing to do with pickles or pickle brine. It's a proprietary grade of acetic acid that interrupts the nerve receptors that cause muscle cramping. And it just happens to taste like pickles, so we called it Pickle Juice, thinking we could either lean into the flavor profile or what it does. But our joke is that if we give you something called Cramp Stopper 9000, you'd probably be pretty reluctant to take it. So we lean into the flavor profile, and now we spend more time educating the consumer on the difference between pickle juice and pickle brine rather than explaining what it does. So we suffer a similar fate now that Kleenex and Sharpie and Coke and companies like that suffer, if you will. I suppose it's a good problem to have.
So it sounds like your target niche here are athletes and people who are really active in training. I'm one of those people who, yes, I'm in the military, but I do not enjoy doing good warm-ups and the things I'm supposed to do. And in fact, I just hired a run coach that I'm going to be working with because a lot of our PT is trained. So if you're tuning into this and you happen to be in the military, you know that our physical fitness is trained. Hey, you might want to you might want to check out this company, right? Especially if you don't enjoy doing the warm-ups. But I want to focus a little bit too, as we go into this discussion, on your leadership style. And because you transition, but your bio talks about you being a storyteller, right? And really being able to work with brands. So let's focus a little bit on that as well as we learn more about this company. So many leaders, Filip, they talk about servant leadership, but you have lived through it. I mean, you just shared some of your experience in the military. You've done it in terms of sports, service, and entrepreneurship. So how do you translate that in philosophy or your experiences in terms of how you lead your team today?
Yeah, it boils down to a very simple principle, right? And I use it in a sports analogy where a person is much more likely to work hard for somebody or with somebody than alongside somebody, right? So if you're the buddy's getting tackled at the end of the field, and you just got to work a little harder. If if you feel an affinity and a connection and a shared passion for achieving the mission with that person, you're going to subconsciously work a little bit harder. So it's all about getting everybody to row in the same direction, getting everybody to truly believe in the mission, and avoid saying things like "because I said so." And if we can't explain why we're doing something, or we can't explain to people why we're asking them to do something, then we probably don't know ourselves. So it's all about leading from the front, coaxing people along, encouraging people to join us rather than pulling or pushing them up this proverbial hill, so to speak. It's sort of like it started with, um, necessity being the mother of all invention, right? So when in a lot of sports, people are there voluntarily; they're not getting paid to be there. So you have to make them want to be there, both at training, at the matches, and then perform high at the matches. Same with small organizations. I'll tell people all the time that you can go to a large established organization and have a much safer route.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you're somebody that really thrives on achievement and drive and accomplishment and making a difference, an organization like this that's in this hyper growth trajectory is a super exciting place to be. However, you're probably going to work harder and at the time at many times for less money than your counterparts in large organizations, because here the work precedes the
Mm-hmm.
position, right? You kind of have to create your own promotions for yourself and grow along with the company. But fortunately, we have an incredible team here that I couldn't have done half of what we've done here without these awesome people that I get to work with every day.
Yeah, it really takes a team, and I really love your approach, and I love your. And I'm not a sports person, but I love your use of analogies. With you're bringing in the experience that you have. So if your experiences with sports, you're. I love your use of metaphors and analogies in terms of how you lead your team. Now, pickle juice itself, it started as a niche product, and you are the CEO of this company. So what mindset shift had to happen for you to take it from something that only a few people knew about to a performance solution trusted globally?
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. I joined the company about 10 years ago in a sales capacity. And at the time, we identified the need to take this sort of niche product that was frankly little more than a novelty at the time and steer it into something that could evolve into a global brand. So we reformulated the product, reintroduced it to market in a more CPG type way, um, and identified a hyper targeted consumer, which was a little counterintuitive because rather than broadening our net, we narrowed it and stuck in our lane of muscle cramping. We knew this product did that better than anything else in the world. So we were going to stick in that lane and focus on it. And that allowed us to evolve into where we were about a year ago when we got acquired by a private equity company, which then injected a bunch of tools and resources into the organization that's going to position us for the next big stage of our growth. So we're kind of calling it Pickle Juice 3.0. But in short, it requires adaptability, the willingness to learn, the humility to learn, and also the desire to move quickly and be results oriented.
There was just so many lessons in this answer that you gave. So if you're listening to this, um, this company, they niched it down. And I know sometimes when we're running businesses, we want to do, and I've had to learn that we want to do a million things, right? But you knew where your target, you identified your target audience and really focused on this niche. And what I also love that I heard you just say was, this is not pickle juice 1.0, 2.0. This is 3.0, meaning that this has gone through many changes to get to where you are now. So in when it comes to leadership and business and engaging in growing companies, because people listen to these interviews for the purpose of not only learning about your organizations or our change makers, but also to learn. And so the answer that you gave was just a learning experience too for those who are listening in, that you might go through many transformations, right? But you stayed the course, and you guys were able to get a partner, right? Who came in take you to the next level. So as a consumer brand, Philip, and with Pickle Juice being focused on health and the health and sports space, how do you build trust in a world full of hype and sugar-laced drinks with empty promises?
Yeah, we lead with the science. Frankly, we don't make any claims that we can't prove. We've heard a lot of anecdotal remedies from people, and those are great stories to hear. We love hearing that. We love helping people. We love that our product makes a difference to people. Some of the most humbling calls we get are from people that suffer from nighttime leg cramps and tell us how we've like changed their life, and which is that's a lot. That's big. We're like, hey, we're a product here, but it is really rewarding, and with that comes a sense of responsibility. But we believe in hyper transparency. I say this all the time that so many companies spend a lot of time, money, and resources in sort of fashioning a narrative that they want the public to perceive them as. And I say instead of spending all that time and resources creating a narrative, just be that thing. And if you want somebody to believe that you are a certain thing, just be it. And if you're not that thing, recognize who you are and what you are, and be who you are. And if you don't like who you are, change it. It's that simple. It's just about being honest, transparent, and open. I mean, we live in a society where companies no longer control their narrative. Uh, the consumer does. I mean, we live in a hyper clear society where you can find any bit of information at the touch of a button. So um, don't try to hide anything. Not only because it's not the right thing to do, but also because you're going to fail.
So consumers who are interested in finding your product, are you available in stores, or how do they place an order online?
hmm We're in about 15,000 stores in the United States. We've also got offices in Melbourne. We opened up Canada recently. We're opening up Mexico, and hoping to open up Europe in 2026. But you can also get us on Amazon or our website, picklepower.com.
So when I say targeted customer, targeted clientele, when in niching it down, is there a specific group that you target? Could it just be the average person like me who hates to do the warm up, right? But or I mean, are you targeting endurance runners, or what specific groups are you guys really focused on working with?
Yeah, so interestingly, the athlete is sort of our obvious play and use case, and that's what we call our credibility play, right? That's where we prove concept. You see this being used on NFL games, baseball games on ESPN, and it's legit, right? And you see it in on the rugby fields overseas, cricket pitches, all over. But really, a about 50% of U.S. society suffers from some type of muscle cramp, and the most prevalent use case is actually nighttime leg cramps.
Hmm.
So a large portion of our consumers are actually boomers and seniors that suffer from nighttime leg cramps because we're more prone to that type of thing as we get older, and they can be debilitating. They can prevent sleep. They can be extremely uncomfortable, and this product will stop it in 60 seconds flat.
So tell me what pickle juice is not. Is it an energy drink, or is it really focused on those muscle cramps? It's not a sugary, over the top caffeine type of energy drink. So tell us what it is versus what it's not, so that we're very clear on that. If people were to see us, it needed a side by side visual on what pickle juice is, right?
Yeah, that's a great question, and thanks for the opportunity to clarify that. Pickle juice has nothing to do with pickles. We said that earlier, but it's also caffeine free, sugar free. It has no artificial colors or flavors. It's a USD organic certified product. It's considered a food product, not a pharmaceutical product. And we did that to be clear and consistent. Not only is our product super clean, but the packaging it's in is super clean. We only use 100% recycled materials that are sourced locally, and when we can't get it locally, it's domestic. We even did a supply chain study about a quarter ago where none of our suppliers in their supply chain are exposed to international stuff other than like the original recycled plastic resin, which is acquired overseas because recycled plastic resin isn't readily available in the US just yet. It's still an evolving technology here. So we really pride ourselves in being clean. So no sugar, no caffeine, no artificial ingredients.
Yeah, and I think that's important, especially for somebody who's listening in and they might be interested in the product. And I'm hearing that that the secondary base of consumers are those seniors with the leg cramp. So no, you're not going to be up all night. You're not going to have the jitters, right? So it's really
That's right.
important to understand that. Let's get back to the conversation on your leadership and your experiences and how you lead the team and have grown this company. So we've talked a little bit about Pickle Juice. We have a great understanding of what it is, what it does. A little bit earlier in the interview, you mentioned building a company culture based on transparency and shared values, and I just like the answer you just gave when I asked about, you even mentioned the supply chain. So I think you've kind of answered this, but I want to kind of harp on a little bit more in terms of how do you create when you talk about that company culture of transparency and shared values. I mean, you mentioned the supply chain, some of the things you guys do, but how do you create that alignment across the teams and how your team does their work on a daily basis as you continue to work on scaling this business?
Yeah, so we take our core values very seriously. I've got them right here on my wall. I read them every day. I stare at them while I'm working, and it's the acronym. You're in the military, so you appreciate a solid, or sometimes not even a solid acronym, but an acronym nonetheless. So our core values are CASIC, and it's collaboration, accountability, solutions driven, integrity, and championship mindset. And those aren't just words on a wall. Those aren't just words on a piece of paper. They're actually incorporated into our annual performance reviews. They're incorporated in how we operate on a daily basis. We identify opportunities to reinforce them. We celebrate when somebody exemplifies those core values. So those are non-negotiables. Those are things that we absolutely insist on everybody following, embracing, and operating 100% of the time, 100% of the passion with.
I love the fact that you guys have core values out, and I really love the fact that you place them on your wall and you remind yourself of that every day. Because sometimes in the daily hustle and bustle of running our organizations or just leading, we can forget that. And I think that by you doing it, it sounds like it helps to keep you really grounded and focus on where you want to go. Also, having it embedded in the evaluation process, and that's the HR portion of me. Because people are, it's very clear on what to expect because it's the core values, right? Now, from a brand perspective, Pickle Juice has a bold identity. And when it comes to how do you managing that identity, how do you balance staying true to the product's uniqueness while growing into your new, especially with you guys expanding, and while growing into your new markets and audiences?
Yeah, it's actually very fascinating and very apropos, and I think you're going to reveal the scoop, if you will, that we're going through a rebranding exercise as we speak. So by the time that Expo West rolls around in early March, um, we expect to reveal our company as um, a broader company, creating an umbrella company under which Pickle Juice is sort of its flagship product. We have a bunch of other products we're developing in the lab, partnerships we're working with to acquire some really powerful new hyperfunctional products. We're trying to carve out sort of a new segment within the better for you food space that we're calling hyperfunctional, which we define as something that delivers an acute effect and result almost immediately, where you can make a tangible connection to the product you consumed, and it's got to be clean and organic when possible, and solving whatever problem is that you have. So we're working with some vasodilation stuff, working on VO2 max stuff. We're exploring ketosis and things like that. So we expect to see our model grow and really where Pickle Juice is our flagship product that's anchoring the growth of this organization.
So in a little while, shortly here, we'll have Pickle Juice 4.0, right? With the I love it because, again, I mean, you have successfully helped to expand and grow this company. It's been a company you said that you've been with for over 10 years now. And so you've seen the ups and downs and challenges as well as the successes of it. So I just really want to point out to people who are listening in terms of the commitment here. These are organic products. And I'm talking about, since we're both in the military, I don't know about your experience, but I want to be honest because it's like it's nothing for me to like. Let me take some pre-workout. Let me take coffee in the morning. Let me do right. And so, from you to be able to go from probably having an experience like that, right? It was like coffee in the morning, coffee at noontime, coffee at supper time. Let me take pre-workout, like caffeine, 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 right? And I'm like living like help like so for you to make that transition, and you are literally really hyper focused on helping to expand this company and grow this company and being really true to helping people take care of their bodies in a way that you guys are even looking at your supply chains, making sure that everything that's involved in the process is true to whatever to your core values, right? And I really appreciate that and respect it. But I also love the fact that from a business standpoint, you guys are continuing to evolve and grow, and you're being very open about the fact that, like, hey, as we continue to expand, we do this. We're working on other products. And so you started with that one, and you're expanding. Um, from you have emphasized throughout this interview that listening to real people, athletes, workers, and really focusing on the everyday consumer. Because again, if I'm my first thought before learning about the product, oh, pickle juice, right? So I'm glad that's the first thing that you clarified. But the second thing is like once I'm learning about the product, I initially really focusing on the athletes. But then you talked about that other part of your business where you have seniors and baby boomers who are taking advantage of this product. So when we look at really listening to real people, can you share a story or a moment, and you kind of highlighted this earlier, where someone's feedback really directly shaped a product or a campaign?
Yeah, it was several years ago. We noticed that HEB, which is a grocery store chain here in Texas,
Oh yeah.
was disproportionately, from a per door perspective, selling a disproportionate amount of product every single week, and we couldn't really identify where it was going. So we asked them. We said, who's buying this? And they have some pretty deep uh, shopper insight, and our buyer told us that it was the Hispanic outdoor worker, and we had no idea that that was a population segment. So we explored different use cases for them. We did some case studies with that market and identified a whole new shopper that we had no idea we had. So it's like I said earlier, it requires a level of humility and understanding that you don't have all the answers, and um, you might find an answer or an idea literally everywhere, and to think that we're the only ones that are going to create new ideas is naive. More often than not, a company will have a couple, and then they'll have to expand on that, or forge different partnerships, conduct different studies. We've got a couple other medical studies that we're going to be introducing here in the next year to look at other possible use cases. So yeah, but that buyer example stands out as one of the early learnings, that we had no idea that we had a whole new consumer segment that was buying this stuff up in droves.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to have those partnerships where you can get that consumer data, right? And really diving into that so you can have that understanding. Because sometimes we can just, this is my this is my audience, and and it's being from somebody who lived in Texas for a while. I can understand why, right? Because it's hot, you moving around. I can, and so I can understand why that might have been a consumer base. So I get it. You know, what is your perspective on innovation in an industry dominated by legacy brands? And you kind of mentioned that earlier. You have the Gatorades and the different other companies, right? How do you keep pushing forward without compromising what's made pickle juice work so far?
Yeah, it's really a commitment to functionality, and finding the balance of healthy, sustainable growth without compromising who we are and how we got here. And that was by creating clean products that actually do something. Um, I think a lot of legacy brands out there are are being pressured to be price competitive with one another. They're racing towards the bottom. They are then sort of pressured into compromising the efficacy and the quality of the product because they're trying to attract a different consumer. We avoid all that, and sort of when everybody zigs, we zag, and it's identifying a consumer, providing something that does a specific thing that a consumer needs, addresses a real demand rather than a perceived demand, and that's pretty much it. It's simple in concept and complex in execution at times, I guess.
A real demand versus perceived demand. That within itself is a whole is a whole lesson, right? That I think is really important for people to understand. Now we're getting towards the end of this interview. I have another question for you. Um, a lot of professionals, they feel pressured to follow traditional paths, and we talked a little bit about your pathway in terms of transitioning from the military, and I agree. I think sometimes people think that the military is every minute we're fighting a war. Yes, the war fight is always there, but there's so much to learn and take away in terms of leadership experience and the things that we do on a daily basis. So we also function on a daily basis, right, with our 8 to 5s or so what happens, from your perspective, what advice would you give someone who's building something different like your company, right, or leading with a vision that doesn't look like everyone else's?
I think there's a couple of things. One, it's that analogy of the iceberg, right? Everybody sees what's above the water, but they don't see anything what's going on under the water. Or similarly, a duck on a windy day where it looks calm and serene above the water and it's paddling like crazy underneath. Um, and I think if you're going to build something, particularly for entrepreneurs, I think you have to have the willingness and the ability to fail. By which that I mean is you can't be financially dependent on your project until it becomes self-sustaining. Otherwise, you won't be motivated by the thing itself, and the thing has to have its own life and it has to be nurtured and served. Otherwise, it'll be bound to fail. You have to identify something that has a true point of market differentiation, and you have to be driven by consumer demands rather than your own desires. And you have to be flexible and willing to pivot. And I think, and then obviously accept that you're going to work a lot harder while you're building something than you might perceive. I mean, it has to be you're 24/7 and until it starts getting some traction. So I think those are probably the four key components that I would give people as advice if they're trying to get into their own thing.
I love that, and I appreciate and respect the advice that you give. So, Phil, what do you have coming up? What is next? Where can people find you? Um, Tell us what any future events or showcases for Pickle Juice, trade shows, even or just yourself.
Yeah, so we did two we partnered with 214 of consumer activation events last year. We're looking to ramp that up this year with a much more focused strategic approach. We're going to be relaunching this company um, at the Expo West trade show in Anaheim the first week of March. So that's going to be a whole new reveal that we're super excited about. And then we're hoping to launch one, maybe two products during 2026 as we sort of reinvent how we go to market and identify what other problems we can serve to the consumers through hyperfunctional beverages. So, yeah, we've got a lot going on. On a personal level, I got dragged back into coaching rugby, so my attempt to retire was thwarted by my very close friend and longtime assistant coach. So I'm enjoying being involved in sports and coaching the Dallas Rugby Club again.
I love that for you. And I love the fact that this is kind of your way of staying engaged and giving back and being involved in your own community by doing something that you love also, right? So where can we learn more about Pickle Juice? And Philip, if you have a personal website, we'll make sure that we share all of that stuff in the description. But where can we go to learn more about the Pickle Juice Company?
Sure, you can go to picklepower.com. That's our website, and a lot of the science behind the product is linked there. A lot of testimonials. Of course, like I said, you can go to Amazon. I think we're up to about 14,000 reviews on our product. So that's firsthand experiences from consumers that are telling their story through reviews, right? Obviously, we can't and wouldn't want to control that narrative. And other than that, you can go to your local grocer or Walmart or specialty retailer. As I said earlier, there's about 15,000 stores in the United States that you can find the product. Um, yeah, or just send us an email.
Philip, it has really been a pleasure to interview you today and to really just learn about your experiences as you've grown through this company, right? Up to your leadership style and the unique brand. And I love the fact that everything that you say. One thing I noticed throughout this interview that you kept saying, we have this study that we're going to release. We have a study, and as a health scientist myself, listen to everything. HR health scientist. I really appreciate and respect that you guys back that up and that you really with the science and you also function based on your core values. It has been such a pleasure to interview today. Any last words, Philip, before we wrap up today's interview?
No, I appreciate your support. We rely entirely on this type of content to get the word out. Again, we prefer letting other people tell our story. We feel it's more authentic and real. And without partners like you, we wouldn't be able to do it. So thank you, Dr. Taylor. It's really appreciated.
So thank you. So today we had the opportunity to interview Filip Keuppens of the CEO of the Pickle Juice Company. Make sure you check out his interview on workglobalnews.com as well as our YouTube channel and across our platforms. Have a great day.